Hello and welcome back to Inquisitor Martyr. Last time we were doing the Void Crusade, and we did drawing a blank seasonal mission. Yep. Didn't get anything worthwhile, but it happens. Sometimes you get something cool, sometimes you get a laser pistol that converts heat to heat damage. Again. But we're gonna go do this bonus mission. Yeah, we can keep increasing challenge here. Man, these guys are going to be zooming. So, if the title of this video is something that I can think of that's witty, or it'll be something on point here, but EVE Vanguard. We had our first little playtest thing not too long ago. I'm trying to think how to word this. Boy. I got the hand action, the knife hand, everything. Boy. I've said this in a few comment sections before regarding this. They should have used Dust 514 as a framework. Because I get where they're going. I genuinely do. They want to make a sandbox. What they want to do is essentially do what you do in EVE, but on the ground. And the extraction thing is essentially you leaving through a warp gate like you would in EVE. I get that. But their first showing of like up to 3-man teams doing these little piddly go run here, touch a MacGuffin, do that 5 times for a payout kind of missions, PvP centric. It does not give good feelings of anything but an extraction shooter. And I stand by that. It is a very bad first impression. It's a bad showing. And people have said, oh, well, it can expand. To quote Dr. Phil in the classic movie Scary Movie 4, bullshit. If you try to expand that game, you are going to run into a lot of issues. Because the TTK, the time to kill, is relatively low. Right? If you've seen gameplay, if you played it, it's low time to kill. Now, the problem there, and you'll see this in most shooters, the larger the conflicts are, the better, the longer your TTK is. Planet side, huge fights. Really long time to kill. Why? Because you don't want your players sitting at respawn screens constantly. It's long, it's arduous, it sucks. Vanguard has relatively low TTK. It's pretty fast. If you can catch someone, they're gone. So if you want to expand that to higher player counts, let's say it's a 24 versus 24 man fight, that's going to be hell. Because you have that low time to kill. Not to mention the healing. The healing sucks. You just run up to bodies, siphon biomass out, and then when you need healing, you just like slurp it in, and you're just like, yep, I'm healed now. Which, if you're trying to expand this into later combined arms, all that, you just kill the logistics build. Healing should have been a Logi bro's job. As a Logi bro myself. This isn't me talking out of my ass like, oh, I don't play logistics. No, when it is any game, I am a support build. I am always healing my homies and picking them up. By letting people kind of just insta-heal whenever they want, you killed healing. Not to mention, because of the TTK, doubling back to this, I'm trying trying to think how to word this too, because it's a lot of trying to just get my point across accurately. Vehicles will become hell. Seriously, that's as simple as it is. Let's say, if you played Dust 504, you'll know this. If you didn't, screw it, I'll do a description too. There's the LAV, the light attack vehicle. No, this is not like the modern day LAVs. This isn't, an M113, or this isn't a Bradley. Imagine like those guys were just vibing. Imagine, I'm trying to think of what it would be. Like a Shelby Cobra looking car. So 2-seater, cut out the trunk and mount like an M2 or a Dushka in the back. And that is what you have. They are very light vehicles with fire support capabilities. If you just corner a dude, you're just going to be able to hose him down. And I can't imagine you're really going to be getting away from that. And that's going to unbalance it, because then people are just going to pull as many LAVs as they can. And then the matter becomes, oh, well, they'll just counter with anti-vehicle weapons. Maybe. The big thing is, how many can you carry? How is this going to work? And will you even be able to get out and shoot when these heavier weapons are in play? Because if a normal assault rifle can wipe you out as fast as they do in a couple seconds, I think it's like maybe 2 to 3, I want to say it was, depending on if you land headshots. Don't quote me on it, because I wasn't exactly sitting around timing kills. I just know it was fast, but it wasn't like hardcore Call of Duty, you get hit in the shin and you explode into meat paste levels. But it was enough that it's like, oh, I have to either be running to cover or by cover or I'm dead. But vehicles will imbalance this. God forbid HAVs, tanks get added. Or drop ships, or anything like that. The weapon system just being like, oh, you have solid, like, kinetic, and you have energy ammo. Just swapping mags in and out felt stupid, especially when you have, like, the Amar, who are laser specialized. Do the Amar magically get energy or, like, kinetic lasers? Because I don't think that's how lasers work. And I'd at least be more understanding if it was something along the lines of how EVE does ammo, where you can load different ballistic rounds, and they'll have different effectiveness, different ranges. Sometimes they might lean more towards, like, thermal or electromagnetic or kinetic or whatever, or explosive. But it's not just, like, energy ammo. Being as reductive as that is a bit absurd. And these are just literally problems I'm thinking of off the rip. And what was disappointing was, I went on to the Discord, and all these people are going, oh, well, this isn't meant to pull new people in, this isn't meant to compete in the extraction shooters, it's meant to keep, like, retain players, and it's meant to be a plug-in for EVE. Just think about that for a moment. Stew in those juices. Why would a first-person shooter component retain EVE players who are thinking of leaving? Like, yeah, some of them are gonna stick around because they'll just shift over. But, like, some people aren't there for that. Some people are there for spaceships. And a lot of the bitter vets that I've seen over the years, they'd leave and they would flat out say, like, yeah, I'm leaving because the devs aren't addressing the issues. Maybe they had an issue with how sovereignty is done. Sov has been kind of borked here and there. Some guys left when moon goo stopped being a thing, technetium, when they did the redistribution because it stopped facilitating wars. Because it used to be if you didn't play, or you didn't play at the time, technetium was specifically tied to tech moons, and the problem was they were not evenly distributed across all of player-controlled territory. Nullsec. The West, Galactic West, had a lot of them, which at the time was Goonswarm territory. And I think Test owned some of that chunk. But everybody wanted Moon Goo. And what happened was they formed OTEC. If that sounds kind of familiar, think of OPEC, the oil producing something. OPEC is essentially nations who produce oil here on Earth. They essentially made a cartel. That's what they did. They cartelled oil production and essentially say, hey, we will set the prices how we want to produce. Everybody follows these rules. And that's what they did with tech. They started producing at certain limits and said, hey, we will make X amount. Don't sell more. That's the deal. Everyone wins. Everyone gets fat stacks. But then they changed that. And it's just... if you're not addressing the core issues of why players are leaving, and you're just trying to retain them by showing a shiny new MacGuffin, you have a problem. Because then when people play EVE and they hit that same issue that drove people away in the past, if they have the same problem, odds are they might leave. And then you're just sitting here continually going, why are they leaving? It can't be because we didn't fix the problem that's a problem. Fix the core issue. Vanguard needs to be the thing that brings more people in. It needs to be the shooter equivalent. It needs to be kind of a standalone in the sense of it isn't just a module that plugs into EVE. Yes, it has interactions, and it should. It should have a ton of interactions. But making this like the EVE bonus mode, please don't leave edition, is a problem. We're already at a boss mission? Wow. Okay, we'll go do that then. That was stupidly fast. No, we'll get rid of that. And we'll get rid of that quick. Okay. The next problem was how the current iteration of Vanguard is presented. Like I said, presenting it first off as like these up to three-man teams doing just garbage missions and leaving. It screams extraction shooter. That's DMZ. That's what it is. But going further than that, if we really look at it, everybody's saying, oh, it's pre-alpha, it's pre-alpha. Why are you showing pre-alpha? That would be like if I was a builder, and you bought a house, and you said, hey, Big Mjolnir, I want you to make my house. I said, sure. You give me the plans, and I say, okay. Actually, no, you don't even give me plans. You just say, make a house, tell me what you got in mind. I go, I start breaking ground on a house. I call you out. I say, hey, you want to see the house? You go, sure. You come out to this big lot, and you see a hole in the ground. I dug the basement. And I go, yeah, so this is your house. We're going to have big 4 stories. There's going to have a nice office, a home theater, nice high vaulted ceilings, top of the line kitchen. It's going to have like the coolest shower in the master bedroom. But all you see is a hole. If you're really there, you're sitting there thinking, well, why are you telling me all this crap? You have a hole. And that's what this is. It is saying, oh, well, in the future we're going to have all this stuff. They got plans for industrialist contracts and capsuleer contracts, so EVE players providing jobs. But the whole time, it's like, well, maybe you should have a framework kind of in place. Maybe you shouldn't be showing us what boils down to just in-dev stuff like this. Because it doesn't give a good impression. It's terribly optimized. People are struggling to get this thing running. You gotta crank some graphics down in some cases. And it's not good. First impressions are everything. So you shouldn't be sitting here doing a terrible first impression. And then, like I said, the people are going, oh, well, they can expand upwards. Here's the thing. Odds are they're going to try to optimize what is currently done. You know, you want, let's say, I don't know the exact player count at any point, because it's honestly hard to tell anybody. When you aim down sights, your gun gets this, like, hollow projection, and any enemy that walks in front of it gets turned glowing red. And not like an outline, like their whole body is red, which screams big issues if you can't do target identification. So you just kind of cheap out and are like, yeah, just make them red. But so you have this problem of like, okay, so you're going to probably optimize to make sure this runs right. But you probably should be aiming for your max. If you want 120 players at any given point, because here's what I do. I just set a number, an arbitrary number. Let's say it's 120. 120 players and NPCs at any point on the map. Let's say at 60 players, actually at 40 players, the enemy spawns... No, we'll go 60. At 60 players, the enemy spawns start scaling back. This way, if a player comes in with a big team, they deploy with a squad of like 10. It will just start despawning some NPCs so that you're not having to process all of them alongside just all these AI and all these players. Because odds are, if the player numbers are that high, this isn't just some, oh, we all stumbled upon each other type beat. This is an invasion, this is an actual conflict. So allocate the resources accordingly so that proper fighting can break out and you're not crashing a server because you had to have these, if we're going to use EVE terms, rats running around. The rats are irrelevant. The NPC ships are not relevant to this conflict. So remove them. But so you should be starting at that. You want 120 guys? Okay, get 120 in and then start working backwards. Okay, what can we put in and what are our limits? I see that in development all the time, especially in a lot of the indie stuff where people will go, hey, our program allows us to have 1,000 NPCs. And they'll just show a bunch of NPCs, you know, stock model, no skins, empty field. Just running around, just running, doing whatever. And then they go, okay, so this is what we can do in a field. Now, let's add some terrain. Put in terrain, okay, we actually can't run 1,000 guys. Alright, do something about that. You do different things, you start culling, you start doing different tricks, remove guys at a certain distance, what have you. And you work down to a feasible number. You don't start at 20 guys and go, okay, let's try to scale this up. Because if you already put in the textures, the animations, all that stuff, you've already put that much taxing stuff in, and now you're trying to squeeze more and more, and as you do that, you're going to have to start reducing either the stuff you're squeezing in, or those animations are going to have to get a little bit worse. Those textures are going to have to get worn down a little. You're going to have to start stripping away. And that's noticeable. The best way I'd describe it is it's like carving wood. It's like whittling. You can't add wood back on. At least not reliably. So you have to be careful at shaving stuff off. And if you want a big carving, you start with a big piece of wood. You don't start with a small piece and then go, oh, I can't do that. No. No, no. 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 Okay, that could have been better, but whatever. Actually, do we check these two? Yeah, that one sucks. And not good either. Bit of a shame, but whatever. It happens. I don't get the showing a pre-alpha thing. Because that's so... It's early enough in development that you shouldn't be showing people. It, like I said, and I keep saying, it gives a bad impression. And I've seen a lot of people who've said, yeah, I'm just going... I played it like once and then I went back to EVE. There's a good amount of people who are just not sold on this idea. And realistically, I think they should have... If you have stumbled upon this video, this will probably piss you off. But I think they should have made it for consoles as well. Because it's money. We're looking at this from business. And... yeah, Dust launched on PS3, and people can say, oh, well, it did bad. Yeah, they didn't bother porting it. It came out 2012. You know how many good free-to-play games there were in 2012? Not many. The free-to-play market and industry was so underdeveloped at the time, no one knew how to do it. That's why Dust was running loot boxes. Yeah, they had loot boxes for a bunch of stuff. It sucked. It was stupid. You had to buy keys. I hated the idea. But it was what worked at the time. And now you look at games like Warframe, where you can play that on your phone. I wouldn't suggest it. You can play it on the Switch, you can play it on PlayStation, Xbox, PC, and there's crossplay for most of them. As a PlayStation player, I just see a swirly symbol next to everybody, so I just assume they're PC players if I don't see the PS symbol. But you can sell stuff to all those individuals. Sell skins. People will buy skins. It's not that difficult. And when it comes to, I've seen the argument time and again of, well, what about updates? Space them out. That is what the test server for EVE is for. PC players can opt in and give their opinions. The only thing I will say is, if that were to happen, if there was crossplay, which would need to happen, obviously, you're going to run into a lot of aim assist, and it needs to happen, because a PC player can crank their DPI and do all sorts of crazy stuff, and a console player has a limit. So I think doing aim assist would be the best option. Yeah, it sucks. Yeah, it's not fun. But as it stands, they also kind of have butt cheeks for iron sights. And I remember Dust 514's iron sights. They were bad. If you played that and you used the... I think it was like the Galenti AR. That thing was horrible. I hated trying to ADS with that thing. It was like pulling teeth. It was the worst experience possible. The SMGs, I think they were like Minmatar made. Had a nice like flip-up slate reflector kind of sight. Clean sight picture, easy to work with. But those Galenti ARs just, ugh. I hated those things. It was like ultra low profile irons. And it was just so hard to actually get a good sight picture with them. Not fun. But it also would have been nice if they just kind of kept all the old Dust stuff, because you had a lot to work with. This pre-alpha test, you had an assault rifle. I don't even know what drop suit. It's like, come on, you couldn't at least program a couple drop suits. Which that says to me how early in development it is. No other weapons, no drop suits, nothing. Even the betas for Dust. Granted, yes, I know I'm literally saying it. The difference between a pre-alpha and a beta. But they weren't dishing out the pre-alpha. They were at least smart enough to go, hey, here's the beta, here's some toys to work with, give us feedback. What feedback do you get from a horribly in development slice of the game? All we got is a roadmap and a ton of promises, and them saying, oh yeah, January we're gonna have stuff. Really, January? Because, I don't know about you, but last I checked, they're Icelandic. Iceland's a Christian country, or predominantly Christian. They celebrate Christmas, so if it's like a lot of game studios, half of December's kind of dead and gone. Then you got January, okay. You're really going to have like a ton of stuff ready? Unless this build is that old? And if it's that old, then why are you showing it? That doesn't make sense unto itself. Once again, if we use the house building analogy, if you sat there and were like, hey, can you send me a picture of the house so that I can get an idea of where it is? And I'm like, oh yeah, I got a picture. And I send you like the first floor, and it's actually a 4-story house, but it's the first floor, and they're like, okay, cool. And then you show up in person, and there's 3 floors. And you're like, hey, so what the hell happened? And it's just like, oh yeah, that's an old snapshot. But like, you want to see progress, so there's progress. If you had problems with that first floor, it ain't getting done now. It's got stuff on top. No, I'm letting myself get a little worked up on this, but I think it's because this shouldn't be that difficult. And Dust should have been the framework, because it already had a lot going. And I like the idea of a sandbox. I like the idea... It fits better than Dust's old match system. Because I've done... Hell, I have a design doc that I did as like a hypothetical, hey, what if I could control this project? And one of the things I hated was that time limit whole thing, because it took that organic nature of fights in EVE and just stripped it all out. got rid of like proper reinforcement timers. It made it so you had to fight, 32 versus 32. Whoever won was just the team that was bringing more clones. Which, what they should do is just have the war barge in orbit, and it's just something an EVE player can plop down. And anybody who wants to fight pays like 25 biomass, and they get a clone. This way you don't have to deal with transporting a bunch of weapons, or transporting clones, or any of this garbage. It's just, oh, you need biomass, okay. Either buy it on the market, or get it somehow, which, that too. Oh my god, the looting. The looting is a nightmare. That and crafting. So they have crafting in it, which... That's another reason why I don't think they're going to do large scale. Because can you imagine if you have 64 people all trying to craft 5 things at once, timers going off continually, having to manage everybody's inventory? That is just going to be annoying. Not to mention, if everybody's getting like deployable shields and stuff, all of that is objects the server has to track. Which, yes, they had to track all the other stuff. They had to track nano hives and all that stuff, but that... I think it was a little easier that way than having everybody just mass pumping out garbage. Potentially, if there isn't, I pray to God they have a limit, because they need to have something where, like, if you put a deployable shield, you cannot put a second one down, or if you put a second one down, the first one goes away. Because otherwise, if they just let people continually stack them, you could just crash servers. And that sounds like a very plain as day, yeah, no shit kind of thing. You would be shocked how many devs forget things like that. A prime example of devs forgetting or not realizing what people will do is sniper rifles. Why they have massive hipfire bloom and hipfire spread is because people figured out you could just barrel stuff with them. And so they had to eventually realize, okay, we need to make it not a viable option to just like rapidly fire hipfire sniper rifles. And so they did the spread. But it was something where no one expected. No one thought people were dumb enough to just like run up and just point blank each other. But they did. So you have to assume with these deployables, someone's gonna try crashing. Got that max health now. I really want Vanguard to work out. I keep saying it, but it's like I really have to stress it because I am very negative on it. It's years of experience, it's years of seeing this crap happen in other games. It's crap I've experienced trying to make games myself. And so it's the matter of like, I want to make sure this works out. I love EVE. I loved Dust. It got me into EVE. I remember back during like 2011, 2012, on the fan forums, talking about ideas, and at the time, I rebuilt from, as an idea, all of the Sancha incursion missions. And I was like, hey, here's how we could do it for Dust. And seeing finally a revival actually get off the ground to someone, I want to see it happen, because I thought it would be cool. And I remember in college talking to a guy, And it was really funny because this guy I did not expect to play EVE. But I looked at his computer and I saw him flying around and I was like, yo, you play EVE? And he's like, yeah. I said, oh, what? Who do you roll with? And he's like, oh, I'm part of test. And I instantly knew. I was just like, oh, okay, how's the war going? And we were talking for a bit and he's just like, yeah, I've just been kind of sitting around scamming the ship replacement program. Just scoring free ships and stuff. And I had to laugh. Because it was just like a goofy interaction that I did not expect. And I love stuff like that. And I just want that stuff to come back. I want a deep FPS game that I can just sink into for hours and hours. Reason I'd like it to be on console is it's easy to record then, and I can make stuff for you guys. I'd love to just run like Sancha incursions and just talk and hang out. If I can figure out streaming stuff, I'd love to do that. I'd love to just goof around. I haven't had a good FPS game. God. The last FPS game that I can say I really just dumped a ton of time into and didn't hate myself during was Mag. Because it was Mag and Dust at the same time, and I had kind of backed away from Dust and went to Mag for the last little bit of time before it shut down. And then I got my PS4, and since neither game had moved over, I just didn't have anything. And I want that to come back. Because otherwise the last FPS game I played that I did hate myself at during playing was Modern Warfare 2019. I just hope for the best, and I don't think CCP will take much to heart, but I hope they do. If they have to delay this game so that they can expand it better, I'd be for it. Hell, I'm sure they could talk to Sony and get funding, since Sony had to delay half of their free-to-play games past 2026. I'm sure they could use the money. And realistically, I don't think Pearl Abyss would say no to putting it on consoles, because I remember there was a thing about Pearl Abyss saying that they're focused on making money, which 9 times out of 10 does never... It's kind of one of those, yeah, no duh kind of situations. But when a company has to come out and say it, it always makes me think they're going to do some shady, scummy stuff of, like, jacking prices. Which I don't think EVE can survive another price hike. When they're doing $20 a month subscription fees, they can't go any higher. And you more or less have to, like, buy in bulk. Because if you buy, like, a year's worth, you can get it at, like, $12 a month. But maybe do $12 a month off rip. Yeah, your money's not going to be great, but I think you'd rather have 2 people coming in and giving you $24 a month than 1 person giving you 20. Not to mention more players might actually help deal with the whole economy constantly being in dire straits as of late. I miss my old Dust gear. I miss the Toxin SMG, the Sever drop suit, it was the Logi suit for Minmatar, the Valor, I think it was a Caldari drop suit? It was a Scout one, and then there was the Raven assault suit. That was the coolest stuff. It was a nice nod to all the mag vets out there. Because that was another thing, if you never played it, a lot of mag players kind of went over there. They were either already kind of there because mag was on its way out, or when mag finally kind of died, they had just flooded over there. There's a lot of names that you end up recognizing. Those were the good days. I also hope if they do implement the Amar laser rifle, they do not do that stupid spooling effect. It used to be where the longer the weapon was held, you had to worry about overheat, but the longer you held it, it would increase damage. So what people did was they would hold it, build up as much as they can, and then quickly sweep and try to tag someone and then hold. And the spool up would be so high, you just dumpster people. Worst decision ever. Hated it. 0 out of 10. Never do that again. But it'd be cool to be a loggy again. Spider tanking was fun. Always get some, like, absolutely crazy heavy dude with a HMG, which was the minigun. And they'd just be standing out, just eating bullets to the face, and you'd have 2 or 3 dudes, all with the repair tools, just repairing the hell out of a guy's back. That was always cool. And it was always surprisingly balanced, because you just threw a grenade. If you just whipped enough grenades, or you had the Minmatar grenade launchers, you just start just lobbing them, usually into whatever nook or cranny or building is behind the heavy, and all the loggies were hiding in there, and you could just wipe them. And if you couldn't wipe them, you'd at least damage them enough to scare them off. And that's the thing too, like this current iteration with Vanguard, if you had the old spider tanking, like spider tanking would be so broken in the current setup, and then on top of that, like, the vehicles would be just absurd. And then, God, what else was there? There was some other stuff that if you translated it over, you would just have some stupidly broken stuff with the current time to kill. Oh, the gear. Because it used to be militia, standard, advanced prototype were the 4 tiers, and already, like, getting proto-stomped happened. And I know people are like, oh, that can't happen again. Look, that happens in EVE. That's called just pulling a bad fit, or having someone with a better ship than you. So it's not exactly out of the norm, but at least with larger numbers, you could see it actually being a little more balanced. Oh, there's a guy with high tier gear. Well, if I have enough pocket loggies behind me, I'm at least okay. It's gonna suck. I'm not gonna lie about that. That's gonna be a hell of a fight. But there's a chance you can survive it. If you don't get the logistics and everything, and it's just the current iteration of Vanguard with that tier system, dudes are getting ragdolled. They are getting just slapped around. They are getting beat like they owe someone money. And I don't really know what you do to stop it. Bring more people? Well, proto suits. If you ran all proto gear, even like, because they still had, within EVE there's like, I think 14 levels, quote unquote, of gear, like level 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the same thing in Dust, where it was like, these tiers exist, but it's easier just to put them into, like, this is an advanced piece of gear, but there's, like, levels, let's say, 3 to 7 in that tier. Even if you're taking, like, the lowest tier protos, fully geared out, if you weren't fighting other protos, you were doing pretty solid. I just want something cool. I think of, like, MechWarrior 5, where they have, like, the missions where you have to scout out a bunch of bases, and there might be guards that can trigger alarms and summon more enemies, and I think that'd be cool. Or assassination missions. I think it'd be so fun to fly in with, like, a team of guys all in, like, a cloaked dropship in this, like, kind of, like you just said, a covert mission, this covert mission vibe of everybody just waiting in this cloaked dropship flying by, and then you all just, like, hop out, blast some dudes, sweep a place, and dip. Or with Sancha incursions, defending, like, one of the missions for the low tier missions is, like, helping a civilian vessel escape. And it'd be cool to do that, where it's like, oh, you have to help defend these capture points that are in front of ships as civilians are loading on, and you have to just stop them from being taken by Sancha infantry. And just this kind of heroic fighting and trying to protect civilians feel. And I worry you're not going to get that in this current iteration. And it's just not, it's not that attractive to show off. Just, oh yeah, here's an extraction shooter. One thing that I always think of is, if you don't play EVE, when wars break out, when the last big war I can think of, World War B, which was against Goonswarm, their, like, their logo is it's a bee. Like Bumblebee. And it was World War B2. And there were guys making all these, like, propaganda images and propaganda videos and stuff, and it's like, that's cool. I want that for a Vanguard Dust kind of thing. I want there to be these, like, essentially Starship Troopers level propaganda pieces. I'm just like, our forces are holding back the pandemic horde, and then it's just like the "do you want to know more" appearing on screen and all that, and just these shots of big fights going on, and then you could be like, and our cleanup efforts are restoring the planet, and having guys, like, sifting through burnt out HAVs, essentially like you would recovering wrecks, or having, like, like the recovery vehicles you see that tow away tanks, like having those recovering bigger hulls of LAVs. And you just can't do that with 3-man teams. And their whole, like, corruption system just isn't as interesting as just control. Oh, this belongs to these guys, this belongs to these guys. Take a mission, fight here, push out their control, take it for us. Simple stuff like that. Don't overly complicate things that don't need complication. EVE is complicated enough, you don't need to do more. Especially when you're trying to translate it to an infantry-style game. Use what you have, and then do what you need new in the rest of it. Oh, I could have just deleted all my relics if that was it. But that is all for now. I apologize if kind of me talking is very scatterbrained this time around. this kind of topic, there's a lot to cover, and I know I didn't cover everything. It's hard to do, because it's a lot of, I know things can change, but I also worry things won't. And that's really it, it's scatterbrained, there's a lot to be said. And I feel like no matter what, I will never really get everything out. It's easier to write stuff down than it is to say it. Especially because then I have time to kind of refine. But yeah, that's all for now. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit the like button. It helps out the channel a lot. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.